Lesson 5 Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Khilafat. Lesson 5 Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Khilafat. We had started with the subject as which will exist, the Western or Islamic civilization. We are on the subject which will exist, the Western or Islamic civilization. So we had covered up to lesson 4 as to how the civilizations rise and come into existence, how the civilizations have been rising and coming into existence. Today, in lesson 5, we shall inshallah try to cover as to how the causes of breakdown of societies and civilizations, the causes of breakdown of societies and civilizations, the breakdown of civilizations, the breakdown of civilizations as per Toynbee. Toynbee inquired what was the door of death through which 16 once flourishing civilizations disappeared. Toynbee inquired what was the door of death through which 16 once flourishing civilizations disappeared. Will the remaining five civilizations suffer the same fate? How long will these live? How long will these live? The other half of his study, therefore, relates to the causes of breakdown and disintegration of societies. The other half of the study, therefore, relates to the causes of breakdown and disintegration of societies. However, it would be appropriate first to see as to what differentiates one society from another. This is best explained by Samuel P. Huntington while analyzing the next pattern of conflict in the world and reviewing the state of enemies USA may have to fight after 2010 AD. The study of the security environment of the USA was carried out in early 90s, published in 1993 under the title The Clash of Civilizations. Under the title The Clash of Civilizations. It develops on Toynbee's basic theme of the history of civilizations. Huntington inquires as to what do we mean when we talk of civilizations. Huntington inquires as to what do we mean when we talk of civilizations, then goes on to elaborate. A civilization is a cultural entity. A civilization is a cultural entity. Villages and ethnic groups, nationalities, religious groups all have distinct cultures at different levels of cultural heterogeneity. The culture of a village in southern Italy may be different from that of a village in northern Italy, but both will share in common Italian culture that distinguishes them from German villages, that distinguishes them from German villages. These German villages will share cultural features with European communities, but they will have nothing culturally common with the Muslims or the Chinese, Japanese, or Southeast Asian countries. But they'll have nothing culturally common with the Muslims or the Chinese, Japanese, or Southeast Asian countries. Thus, the Westerns, Muslims, Chinese are not part of any broad cultural affinity or entity. Thus, the Westerns, Muslims, Chinese are not part of any broad cultural affinity or entity. They constitute separate civilizations. They constitute separate civilizations. A civilization is thus the highest cultural grouping of people and the broadest level of cultural unity. Civilization is thus the highest cultural grouping of people and the broadest level of cultural unity. It is defined both by common objectives and elements such as language, history, religion, customs, institutions, etc. Thus, the only commonality which any two civilizations have is that their people are human beings. Thus, the only commonality which any two civilizations have is that their people are human beings. Civilizations are dynamic. They rise and fall. They deviate and merge. And as Danby states, they break down, disintegrate, disappear, are buried in the sands of time. Huntington also confirms that Westerns tend to think of nation states as the principal actors of global affairs. They have been that, however, for a few centuries. The broader reaches of human history have been the history of civilizations. The broader reaches of human history have been the history of civilizations. Toynbee writes that the race of societies is a long drawn race. It is like a number of men trying to climb a several miles high cliff with ledges at intervals for rest. So, if one sees at any one ledge a man is lying prostrate, another one in a reclining posture, another standing, and one climbing, it would be a mistake to assume that the man who is seen climbing at this cross section of the time will win the race, and the one lying prostrate would lose. So it is difficult to judge at any one time the fate of the civilization, or to declare that it has broken down or has been assimilated by the other by the another civilization. Toynbee writes, our study will have to be extended to a number of centuries before making such a verdict. Toynbee then takes up various proclaimed or generally accepted causes of breakdown and analysis and analyzes, and my apologies, and analyzes each hypothesis of breakdown by pitching it against the history of each of the 16 civilizations that have disintegrated and broken down. The 16 civilizations that have disintegrated and have ceased to exist to ascertain the validity of the perceived reasons of breakdown. Some schools of thought have mentioned that A. Breakups of civilizations are due to factors outside human control. During the Hellenic civilization, it was held by writers, both pagans and Christians, that the decay of their society was due to cosmic connaissance, that is, weakness in the stars because of aging. Modern physical science has had discarded this theory. It is true that modern scientists envisage in an unimaginably distant future a running down of the clock of the universe as a consequence of the inevitable transformation of matter into radiation. But that future, according to them, is distant. B. Some believe that societies decay because of racial degeneration and can be saved with the infusion of fresh blood like that of barbarians. This was examined and rejected. It is like putting cart before the horse. Biological decay, he concludes, is the effect of social decline and not its cause. The malady which inhibits the children of the decadence is not paralysis of their natural faculties, but a breakdown of their social inheritance, which debars them from finding scope for their unimpaired faculties in active and creative action. See, next it was seen in the growth of civilizations that the increase in the control over the physical environment as measured by improvement in technique, that is technology, and an increase in control over the human environment as measured by the geographic expansion or military conquest are not the criteria or causes of growth. Likewise, he proves that the decline of technology, and the geographic contraction caused by military aggression from outside are not the criteria or causes of breakdown. He adduced several examples to show that a decay of technical achievement has been a result, not a cause of breakdown. The decay of technical achievement has been a result, not a cause of breakdown. Gibbon's thesis that the decline and fall of the Roman Empire was due to foreign aggression by barbarism and religion, that is, Christianity, was examined and rejected. Toynbee says Gibbon did not begin his history far enough back. Toynbee says Gibbon did not begin his history far enough back. Barbarism and Christianity were the manifestations of the breakdown, which had already taken place. Then various examples of successful aggression against civilizations were analyzed. Then various examples of successful aggression against civilizations were analyzed to find that in every case Successful aggression occurred after the breakdown of the victims. That in every case, successful aggression occurred after the breakdown of the victims. Having analyzed and discarded all the apparent propagated causes of breakdown of civilizations, Toynbee gives the gist of his research and shows that the breakdown of civilizations can be summed up in 3 points. A. Failure of creative power in the minority, which henceforth becomes a mere dominant minority which has degenerated and is oppressive. B. On account of the conduct of the dominant minority, an answering, that is, withdrawal of mimesis, resulting in withdrawal of allegiance on the part of the majority. C. And a consequent loss of security, unity in the society as a whole. I may mention here as an explanation to explain the word mimesis. Mimesis word includes religion, customs, way of living, styles of living, dress, language, etc. These are all part of mimesis. If we analyze these 3 points, we find that the core single factor and cause is the withdrawal or abandoning of the mimesis of that society by the majority of its people that leads to the breakdown and subsequent disintegration and annihilation of the civilization from the earth. Secondly, if during this process its people abandon its own mimesis, that is, their religion, culture, ways, styles of life, dress, language, etc., if during this process its people abandon its own mimesis and adopt the mimesis of an alien society, another society, the process of its disintegration is speeded up and it is assimilated into the other society in a relatively shorter span. In a relatively shorter span. Thus, the struggle or clash of the civilizations is palpably and most surely in the clash of the mimesis of these civilizations. Thus, the struggle or clash of the civilizations is palpably and most surely in the clash of the mimesis of these civilizations, which I already covered, means religion, cultural orientation, dress, language, habits, etc. of the society. Toynbee states in the struggle for existence, the West has driven its contemporaries to the wall and tangled them in the meshes of its economic and political ascendancy. But it has not yet disarmed them of their distinctive cultures. But it has not yet disarmed them of their distinctive cultures. Toynbee then concludes that among the existing civilizations, all other societies have broken down except the Western Christendom and the Islamic society, except the Western Christendom and the Islamic society. The Western Christendom civilization has overpowered all the other societies which are being assimilated into the Western society except the Islamic civilization. This he wrote in about 1955. The Western Christendom civilization has overpowered all the other societies which are being assimilated into the Western society except the Islamic civilizations, according to Toynbee. It may be too early to predict whether the Western Christendom would also overpower and assimilate the Islamic civilization. The present balance appears to be in favor of the Western civilization, according to Toynbee, writing in the mid of last century, 1955-60. The present balance appears to be in favor of the Western civilization. At the end of the study, Toynbee devotes an exhaustive separate 50 abridged pages to the prospects of Western society. He says the phenomena of the growth and breakdown of civilizations is not physical but spiritual. He says the phenomena of the growth and breakdown of civilizations is not physical but spiritual. He laments that his society has strayed from the one true God of their forefathers. He laments that his society has strayed from the one true God of their forefathers. Since the 17th century, it was now worshipping the idol of nationalism. Since the 17th century, it was now worshipping the idol of nationalism, worshipping the creature instead of the creator. It may then be tempted to seize collective humanity as an alternative objective of idealization. But the Hellenic society had this god or idol of collective humanity and failed. The West can meet the same fate after 2000 years of Hellenic society. Toynbee. He says the plane on which the spiritual battle is to be fought is neither the military, nor the social, nor the economic, nor the intellectual. The critical questions and problems confronting Western man are all religious. He says the critical questions and problems confronting Western man are all religious. He says the Western society has manifestly given over to the worship of a number of idols, but among these one stood out above the rest, namely the worship of the parochial state. This false religion, worship of parochial state, was the cause of disintegration and demise of all the 16 societies. He writes, there is no virtue in religious toleration, secularism, into which a disillusioned Western world has subsided since the close of the 17th century. I repeat, he writes, there is no virtue in the religious toleration, that is secularism, into which a disillusioned Western world has subsided since the close of the 17th century. The Western soul will not find it bearable to live without a religion for long. The Western soul will not find it bearable to live without a religion for long. The discomfort of spiritual vacuum had tempted them to idealize nationalism, fascism, and communism. Frustrated devotees had found toleration that secularism easy initially. Frustrated devotees had found toleration that is secularism easy initially, but now they have tested other false gods. 17th century toleration secularism will not be able to hold its ground against 20th century assault by any religion. He writes that the 17th century toleration secularism will not be able to hold its ground against 20th century assault by any religion. Secularism has been defined in the Cambridge Encyclopedia Britannica 1951 as a doctrine definition. I read out. The essence of secularism is that morality should be based solely on regard to the well being of mankind in the present life, to the exclusion of all considerations drawn from belief in God or in a future state, to the exclusion of all considerations drawn from belief in God or in a future state. This was as regards Toynbee, and this definition is from Encyclopedia Britannica 1995. So we come to the end of our lecture today. Inshallah, Allah be willing, shall continue tomorrow, inshallah, on the 30th. Till then, please pray for me, ex Brigadier Muslim Sardar.